What were the biggest takeaways between the Sixers and Cavs? Who are the players of the game? All that and more on Sixers Post Game Live. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Sixers Post Game Live. The Sixers get the W 113-97. We are talking about our top takeaways, what it all means as we get ready for the regular season. To help me do that, I've got my man. He is Sean. What's going on, dude?
Yeah, it was a pretty good preseason game, I'll say. We got to see a little bit of the small ball action with a little starting lineup, which is something I think that will carry over to the regular season. Got to see some extended runs from some bench guys. A lot of good takeaways from a lot of kind of the complementary pieces tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, before we get into the bench pieces, I think it's pretty much a given here that we got to roll with Tyrese freaking Maxey.
Yeah.
Because he really pretty much started tonight where he let off. He had back-to-back threes or something like along those lines. He had a transition bucket. He had an unbelievable reverse layup on the baseline that I don't think the Cleveland announcers were dead to begin with, but they had like no reaction to just unbelievable play that Tyrese Maxey did. I can't wait to rewatch that. But Tyrese Maxey continues to be just an unbelievable scorer, incredibly confident with the basketball in his hands. What was your reaction from Maxey tonight? And he got some second half action, I think, for the first time tonight.
Yeah, definitely. And he's the guy. He really is. It's crazy that like we've gotten here all three preseason games so far and just been blown away at like what he does. But there are just more layers in his game. Even stuff like he set up Niang on a pass today that is similar to the plays that like Harden was setting him up with last year, where you kind of just lead him into a run and attack the basket. The one where he tiptoed on the baseline and had that up and under finish was pretty crazy. And the jump shot is just straight up legit at this point. Like I just expect it to go in, which is insane, the growth he's shown there. And I really do think he's kind of becoming the second option on this Sixers team, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, like you look at last year and how much his three-point shooting went from here to there. Like, could this guy like eventually lead the league in like three-point shooting? Like, what is the next realistic step for this guy? Because it, like you said, man, every time this guy lets it fly, it feels like it's going in every time. He's just incredibly smooth with the basketball. It's just such a great looking shot, man.
Yeah, definitely. And compare that with the pace that he plays with, just everything about him is he's becoming more and more complete. He had a little like turnaround thing, a little mid-range that he hit tonight that I like. He likes that like, kind of fadeaway on the jumper that I think works really well for him, especially with his size. And it just like the jumper, like I'm completely bought in. I even think there was a part of me going into this season that I was expecting a little bit of regression just because, I mean, he was third in the NBA in three-point percentage last year, which is ridiculous. But I do just really believe that, like, it is legit. It's here to stay, and it's going to continue progressing. His entire game is going to keep evolving, which is amazing. It's the most improvement we've really seen from a modern Sixer, and it's awesome to watch.
It's nuts, man. Like, and like, we can pencil in Tyrese Maxey as second on the team in shot attempts this season, right? Is that a given right now? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think definitely. And there were some nice flashes from Harden today. He's losing control of the ball a lot, which is just a weird, like, I don't know if he's playing too fast or whatever, but he had one nice moment where he kind of called out Jared Allen, circled him, and took him to the basket, got the lay-in. He had a couple threes that looked nice, but I do think Maxey has kind of leapfrogged him in just how dynamic he is because of everything, and Harden seems pretty content with being the playmaker. As long as somebody's filling it up, it doesn't matter to me.
I think like what I want to see from Harden is just a consistent three-point shot. I like that he hit 2 of 4 from 3. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for him to get some open threes, especially with some of the pieces they added here. Wide open three-pointers is going to be, I think, a consistent advantage for the Sixers this season. But let's go to some comments. We've got Chris Coyle in the house saying, let's go Sixers. Tariq says, Cleveland's not a threat. We match up better with their guards on the defensive side, especially this year, man. It's really incredible. We're going to talk about the depth on this team very soon. Mr. Rudy Poo, what's going on, man? Says, I'm here for the Paul Reed victory tour. Also, Quentin was loving the Paul Reed steals, deflections, and blocks. That's what he does. Let's talk next about I thought DeAnthony Melton had a really good game. He only had 7 points, but he did have 5 assists, 6 rebounds. I liked what I saw with the ball with the ball in his hands. He looked fast. He looked smooth in the offense. He looked more decisive. He knew where the shooters were. This is the best because I've been kind of wanting more from him when it comes to being a secondary ball handler within this offense. But DeAnthony Melton showed me something tonight because I know the defense is going to translate. But I saw a little confidence within this offense, especially moving that ball. What are your thoughts on Melton tonight?
Yeah, definitely. I thought this was his most complete performance as a Sixer so far. I thought he played with like a good amount of maturity today. Like he's only 24 years old. He had a couple nice little dump off passes that were intriguing to me. And I think when they played the small ball in the beginning, I think Melton was really the anchor of that and tying that all together. The way he was able to switch out on the perimeter, get back, and push transition coming out of it. That's something that we haven't seen with this Sixers team. But the way he was able to just get the ball and go is awesome. And that's something that's going to be major come into play this year a ton. So I was happy to see on both ends of the floor. He's definitely a confident player as well, which is great to see. And I was very impressed with what he brought all around tonight.
Yeah, if he can keep that ball moving with the basketball in his hands, man, the way he's going to set up his teammates, the way he's going to be active defensively, provide some spacing. I'm not worried about the shot. I think the shot is going to come back. And I think like he just fits perfectly with this roster. Like if you have a Harold Harden pick and roll going on there, you just throw him on the corner, or like he's going to fit perfectly for me at least. Quinn says Melton is Shake Milton 1.5.
I like that.
Yeah. Quinn says if Harden can make open threes, not necessarily a step back threes, that would be good enough, man. That's what I'm hoping at least. But yeah, DeAnthony Melton was awesome tonight. And then we get to, I want to talk a little bit about Daniel House. Daniel House had, there it is, 10 points in 13 minutes on 4 of 4 shooting tonight. He did have 2 steals. I really like this guy's energy. It's nice to see, a guy with that much size. And they really suffocated the Cavs guards in many respects. But any thoughts on Daniel House Jr.? I was just loving his transition defense. It's as advertised.
Yeah, I've been. I'll even go as far to say he's exceeded my expectations so far. I've been very impressed with what I've seen. I love the bow and arrow celebration after the made shots, and he seems like a guy that everyone on the team is really enjoying having around too. He's an interesting dude. He's got his own music label. He's got a lot of just like a cool guy. He seems so good for the vibes, and the on-court play is showing up too. So happy to see that. He's another guy that just kind of fits that category of the 3-and-D type player. Is able to space the floor. And the defense I'm buying into as well. So I'm happy to have him.
He fits so perfectly with Tyrese Maxey and just, pushing the tempo, thriving that open court, especially in transition. Like, well, what are your quick thoughts on this? Because there was no MB tonight. There's no Harold tonight. Do you expect the Sixers to go more small ball? Is this a sign of things to come? Any thoughts on that?
I think they'll use it in short doses. I liked it. I liked seeing it tonight. There hasn't been that really ability. Kind of going with B-Ball Paul has been like our version of small ball in the past, just because he is switchable. He's a guy that can guard on perimeter. I thought he made a positive impact tonight, switching out on the perimeter. But with the small ball lineup that we did see to start this game, that's a large part of kind of the point of bringing in PJ Tucker. I think, like, yes, he's going to be that forward that spaces the floor, shoots corner threes, but that ability to play 5-out basketball and just kind of run that's especially great for a guy like Maxey. Like if we can run that with a Maxey led unit a lot, I think there's going to be a ton of great results. Like just exactly how it was today. He can attack, he can create with his threes, and just that amount of spacing is something I think is very cool. And I would like that to be at least like in the cards to throw out for the right matchups.
Yeah, I agree. Fully agree. Mr. Rudy Poo says our on-ball defensive pressure is suffocating. When you have Melton and Matisse and PJ and even House, you get a lot of turnovers. Like I just thought Thibault and Melton just suffocated the guards for Cleveland. I think that's a great matchup right there. We've got Mitch in the house. What's going on, Mitch? Thanks for joining. We got Ryan in the house. What's going on, Ryan? People forget they had PJ and House basically play small ball with the Rockets.
Yeah, Robert Covington.
Yeah, absolutely. And like this is kind of alludes to what we kind of talked about during the previous post-game show when I was having all those technical issues. Is that like this is a great problem to have for Doc Rivers, man. There's going to be a lot of different lineup combinations to play around with. So where do we go next? I'll throw it to you, man. Who do you want to talk about next?
I'll throw a quick shout out to Matisse Thybulle, who's a guy I've been pretty critical of, but started off with an air ball on his first three tonight. Comes back and shoots 3 for 4 from deep from there. So I will give him some credit for keep shooting. I do think he's a guy who's going to see his role minimized pretty significantly this year. But good to see him at least kind of shooting through the confidence. That's what we're hoping for, really, from him. Is just that that willing trigger and just keep putting it up. And we're seeing that. So I was encouraged by his play tonight. He's still got enough defensive impact that there's going to be games where he's needed. So I was happy to see that.
Yeah, I mean this is his future with the Sixers. He'll obviously probably be traded at some point, but relies on becoming a consistent 3-point shooter, obviously. But he was such a funny player to watch in the first half, especially because his first 2 shots were wide open. The first one was an air ball. The second one, there was no one within 10 feet of him, and it was just a complete brick. And then the third one was a contested 3 in the corner, and he made it. The dude cannot hit an open 3-point shot to save his freaking life. But you put a hand right in front of him, he makes it. But I was glad to see him kind of come back in that second half and kind of get some of those to fall. But I'm not a believer, bro. I'm just not. I think it's going to be fine when you need some defensive pressure, but I think they already brought that in. I'm more pro Daniel House. It's amazing to think back, where this roster was, this time last year when you've got him playing considerable minutes and Korkmaz playing. Remember the times when Doc Rivers was running the offense through Furkan Korkmaz and George Niang, 5 seconds left remaining on the clock, it has to create offense. These are going to be absolutely non-issues with this team, man. This team is deep. They're rebounding better. They're going to play better defense. The offense has potential to be elite. It's a completely different team, man. It's fun. I'm having a fun time watching this team.
Yeah, definitely. Shake Milton was the 6th man of this team 2 years ago. He's now probably the 12th man on this roster, which is pretty crazy and just a straight up sign of the improvement of depth there. So very cool. We should acknowledge the Charles Bassey not getting in the game, and I think that's a pretty clear indicator of the Bassey era in Philly being over. I was disappointed by it. We didn't get to see much of it. We had the flashes against Giannis, flashes against Jokic. So he had some big moments in his short career. But the fact Michael Foster is getting minutes over, it's pretty cut and dry that he's on the way out.
Foster had a nice offensive board and putback. He had. He's nice. I'm a big fan of Michael Foster, but all signs point to Foster going to Delaware and Bassey playing his last minutes in Philadelphia. Let's go to some more comments. The Phillies are in the playoffs. The Eagles are 5-0. The Sixers, I think the Sixers are undefeated. Come on. In the preseason. It's just the golden age of Philly sports, I guess. Ryan says PJ and Daniel House creating enough spacing for a great scoring of pressures and less turnovers. Yeah, man, that's the depth of this team is something this team has lacked for a long time. I think Daniel House is an underrated piece of this team. I think that guy's going to get maybe more minutes than we expect. Matisse is pulling with no hesitation. That's a huge difference. That's true. That's true. I mean, that's a big focal point for this entire offense this preseason from the jump. I mean, they're taking a lot more threes through 3 preseason games than they did at all last year. I think they were 4th worst in the league. They were literally dead last in the playoffs when it came to 3-point attempts. Quinn says, is Springer a bust? Any thoughts on that?
Too early to say that. He's not. He doesn't fit the Sixers timeline for sure. He's not a guy that you added and can play a role in this team even this year. He's still, I think, probably got 2 to 3 years before he's a player that can contribute to a contending team. But I still see the pieces. I think the defense is there. the ball handling looks better. He had a couple moments today where I thought he blew past guys and dribbled in a way that I haven't seen from him before. He had one up and under finish that I really like. So I still do believe in him, but he's not a guy. Leave him at Delaware for now. Let him play as much basketball as possible. But if there's a possible trade, I wouldn't mind moving on from him for a more win now player. But I do think in the long run, Jaden Springer does have an NBA role.
Love it. Mr. Rudy Poo thinks Jaden Springer is an NFL linebacker. Mitch says, can Doc Rivers get past the second round? Don't care about the preseason record. My quick thoughts on that is this. If you go back and look at the last couple years with the Sixers in the playoffs, when that starting lineup was in and playing and healthy, they were among the best in the league, period. It was everything else that came off that second unit. It was the bench. It was the lack of scoring, lack of playmakers. That goes on. And like we just alluded to, like when Danny Green went out with an injury, you had no answer. Your answer was Shake freaking Milton. And no disrespect to Shake Milton, but this team has way more ammo compared to years past. I think Melton is going to be terrific. I think he's going to be a big-time player in this team, offensively and defensively. And if they can get, some of that, so what's the phrase? Like if that net rating and stuff like that, when Joel Embiid is off the court, isn't as bad as years past, I think they're going to be fine. I think the depth of this team can get this team past the second round.
Yeah. And this is the as much as we talked about like pressure on James Harden, pressure on all these guys, I think Doc Rivers is the number one guy with pressure on him this year, because like he just went on the Woj podcast today and talked all about like how he maxed out the team he had last year and all this. Like you now have all the pieces. The excuses are pretty much gone. It's like it's on you to put them together in the right way and make sure that this is a playoff team. Because when you look top and down, up to bottom on this roster, this is like a deep playoff team, and it's Rivers' job to steer them, put the pieces together, and make that happen. So I'm gonna wipe my slate clean, open judgment for this year, and let's see it happen. I'm encouraged by even like tonight going with the small ball lineup because like that's the kind of flexibility that I think we've been critical in the past of not seeing. So I'm encouraged, and to Doc's credit, kind of how you brought up there, like there just haven't been enough pieces to do these kind of things and have that kind of like freedom with lineups and see it. So I do think there's a lot of pressure on Doc this year, and that's gonna be the question that's answered.
That's a good thing. That's 100% a good thing. Listen, I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers fan, but wasn't that the take last year, or among many takes? Was like when you play Toronto, when you play Miami, like those teams had guards and wings like that they could rotate in and out and in and out. Like that's something the Sixers just haven't had. And I'm very high on Melton. We saw him like crash the glass and get a putback. I just think like across the board, this team is definitely built different. They're better. They've got better scores. They got better rebounders. They got better defenders. They got more toughness. So let's roll on to our player of the game, man. Who are you going with?
I'm torn. I think I'm giving it to my guy B-Ball Paul here.
Another
three blocks, 3 steals. I think it's amazing the way he's just really like solidified himself as the backup center of this team. And like even we're going as far back as we used to debate like if Charles Bassey or B-Ball Paul is the guy. And it's very clear that like it's not even close in the Sixers' eyes which one of these guys is better. And I think that's a huge testament to him for continuing to work at it. And he was impactful today. I also really like seeing him get up on the top of the zone to be able to switch up there, guards, still get back. And I love everything he brings. And I felt his presence tonight, so I'll give him the shout out.
I love the pick there for Paul Reed. What I like about Paul Reed is that he's letting everything kind of come to him. He's not, he can kind of be a frustrating player to watch when he's trying to do too much offensively, and he doesn't have the handle. He kind of looks clumsy right there when he's dribbling the basketball. But when the offense is coming to him and he's kind of playing within himself, just like Tobias, like sometimes less is more with these players. And I've been liking Paul Reed. I mean, you look at his deflections, man. His deflection numbers are insane.
Yeah, him and Matisse tied for first in the NBA last year for most deflections per 36, which is crazy out of the entire league. And I will give him, he did have the like 11 pump fakes on the one play today when he got that. He did flash the hand a little bit, but overall I do think he's played more controlled, and I'm seeing progress with his growth. I also saw a little bit of growth in his ability with off the pick and roll. I saw him do it with Melton in a way that like he seems to be opening himself up more offensively. So that's huge in the long run if he can keep building off that. And yeah, that's the guy for sure.
All right, I'm gonna go with Tyrese Maxey. Sorry, Sean, I'm not going crazy tonight, but well, I'm gonna do this math real quick. All right, so from tonight, from the first 2 games, he's got 60 points in. How many minutes did he play here? 24 minutes. In 52 minutes. He's got 60 points in 52 minutes. Tyrese Maxey, as a scorer, is playing on a different level. We all knew he just was taking leaps and bounds as a scorer last year, but like we're now getting to the point where maybe even Joel Embiid will be able to take a night off or so, because we're going to just feed Tyrese Maxey and he's ready for that role, which I was not ready to say that. Like, this guy completely continues to shatter expectations. Like, I remember like just 9 months ago thinking like, what could be the ceiling for Tyrese Maxey? I was in my head, I'm like 19, 20 points a game, good 3-point shooting, efficient in the pick and roll, or elite in the pick and roll. But like, I don't know. I feel like we're going to keep having this conversation about where this guy's ceiling starts and ends. So like, do you have any quick thoughts on like where we're headed in terms of projecting Tyrese Maxey?
Yeah, I think the top end potential for him now is that like genuine 1A guy, like that guard that you can build around. And it really is amazing. I saw Derek Bodner and Rich Hoffman on Twitter today talking about like when the last time, outside of Maxey, who's the Sixer that has improved the most in their time with the team? Because I think it's far and away Maxey, from the player that we saw as a rookie to the guy we have now at such a rapid rate, is crazy. And Embiid's probably the only other guy kind of in the conversation, but obviously much different circumstances for the way he went about it. But I really don't know where to set like the limit for how good this guy can get. If that like jump shot stays legit, which I do believe in, and pair that with like him already being an elite finisher around the rim and the pace he plays with, and I'm still seeing growth as like a playmaker as well. There are a couple moments today where I was very encouraged by that. So he's looking more and more complete every game, and it really is like amazing to watch.
Yeah, it's lights out, man. Like he had 9 points in 3 minutes in this game. Like.
Growth and confidence, I think, is a huge deal too. Just like the way he, like, there was a couple times where he'll just run up and like get the ball, like rather than like let the ball come to him, he's kind of seeking it out now, which is a huge testament to just his growth and his belief in himself. And we've talked about how like he hasn't quite figured out how good he is yet. I think he's starting to,
and that's something we saw in last year's playoffs. And you know, we talked about that a lot. Like, the ball needs to be fed through Tyrese Maxey over and over and over again, but it really wasn't until kind of Tobias took that lesser role within the offense and we saw kind of Tyrese Maxey soar. And I think we're going to keep watching him soar in 2023. I would love to see what Doc does with rotations when this team is up in the second half. The bench depth is improved. We'll see, man. It's a good problem to have. Like we've said, it's a really good problem to have. Me and Sean are going to go nuts with the lineup combinations and nets and plus minuses and all that kind of fun stuff for sure. We'll see. We'll see how like PJ and Tobias look in extended minutes, things like that. We'll see. Quinn says the Sixers have only one playmaker. I think Tyrese Maxey is – this is an interesting question. So this is what we're going to be talking about, I feel, all year long. 20 seconds left, fourth quarter. Who has the ball in their hands? Who do you give the ball to?
I mean, I think it's still Embiid right now.
Is it?
I think so. Although the there kind of the battle going on in Embiid is him becoming more perimeter oriented because you have to kind of to create these shots. There's just things you can do to defend big men and prevent them from getting the ball down low. That he's combated that by like improving his handle, being able to step outside, do that thing. And I still think he is the guy because this is still his team. But I do think Maxey has certainly jumped hard in the rankings, and there's going to be nights where that's the matchups, that's the go-to. I'm still rocking it with the MVP runner-up last year for now, but it's crazy that like I do think at 21 years old, Maxey's right in that conversation.
Yeah, it's insane. He says Maxey isn't a playmaker. I disagree with that. I really disagree with that. I think all signs indicate we're going to see a lot more pick and roll within the Sixers offense this year. I don't want to see any more of that playoff isolation, heavy basketball that we saw in the playoffs. I want to see, because the number one storyline is Embiid and Harden developing in that pick and roll, and I really want to see Maxey be a big piece of that because he is elite. He's already elite in the pick and roll. I want to see more opportunities. You got a guy like Harrell who can thrive rolling to the basket. It's all there, right, Sean? It's right there.
Yeah, and the other thing I'm noticing with the offense is just much more movement in general. They're doing a lot of, especially with Tobias and Georges Niang, of like running off screens for a three and those kind of plays that are nice to see because that's like a staple of most NBA offenses that we haven't seen with the Sixers in these past couple of years. So that's something that's encouraging to me. The more comfortable Tobias can get that, the better. But I think that's going to become like outside of corner threes, that off motion three can definitely be like his shot in this offense.
Absolutely. We saw kind of PJ Tucker hit a couple of those corner threes. It's going to be a lot of fun watching Harden kind of get in the middle area of the court and navigate and find open shooters all over this, this Sixers roster. Larry says Tyrese Maxey is a superstar. I agree. Quinn says there was good movement at the beginning of tonight's game. Absolutely. Do you have any losers for tonight? Because I have one.
Bassey's the only one that pops to my mind.
That's a good one. I was obviously watching it on NBA TV like probably everyone else, and their announcers were horrible. And that was a tough game to get through. The Cleveland Cavs announcers, and I'm not talking about Serena Winters. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Serena. She's, I guess, working for the Cavs this year. I like Serena. I had no issues with Serena. So that was fun. I didn't know where was she in years past? I think it was the Lakers or something along those lines.
She was with the Cavs last year too.
Was she? Right.
Yeah. Okay. But for the announcers specifically, they were having the time of their lives, just laughing along out there, and it was like a weird mix of them like treating it like a regular season game, like talking them back into it. So it was a weird vibe, the broadcast tonight for sure.
Yeah. All right, that pretty much wraps it up, man. Plugs. Final thoughts and plugs. Time's yours.
Yeah, I'm excited. One more preseason game to go, and then we're into the real thing. So it's that time of year. I'm excited. But you guys can follow me on Twitter at Sean_Bernard1. You can check out PickSwap Media on YouTube to check out the full PickSwap podcast, a couple other stuff out there. And you can check out my written work on heavy.com and see that in my Twitter profile as well.
I can't believe we're like this much closer to Sixers Celtics. It's next week. It's right, like it's like literally a week. That's just crazy to think about. But thank you everyone for watching. The comments were terrific. Thank you for watching, guys. Please be sure to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff wherever you're watching. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. PickSwap Media, Edge of Philly Sports, Philly Sports Alliance, the Painted Lines. Thank you for watching. We'll be back on Wednesday night to break it down again. For my man Sean over there, he is at Sean_Bernard1. I am Dives, Mr. Crockpot. For Sean, for myself, stay awesome.